Get started then?
Absolutely. Let's do this. We're going to have a
Awesome.
blast.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've been looking forward to this a lot. This is a great topic. And thank you, Dave, for offering to put on this session for us. I know you've worked a lot with us in the past, and thank you to everyone who signed up and is in attendance today. I'm gonna get started since we've got 1 hour together, so let's make the most of it. My name is Erica. I work for BBB Wisconsin, and we're thrilled to be able to offer these sessions to accredited businesses. And if you are not BBB accredited today, feel free to send me an email after this session. I will follow up with you and we can get you some information about all the other benefits of BBB accreditation. And today we are here with Dave Melenda. Dave is the owner of Positive Polarity, who is an accredited business with us. And Dave, would you like to take it away?
Yep. Absolutely. If you're not accredited, I highly recommend it. It's really worth the extra money. The value is so much there. So thank you, Erica, for letting me hang out with you guys today. Um, I know that this topic is definitely sensitive as Erica and I were preparing for this today. It's hard to be like, hey, I have a question. Where I work is no fun, so I totally get that. So I want to share with you right up front that at the end, we're going to give you access to a 30-minute free session with me to be able to unpack this a little bit. So if you have a question that you don't feel comfortable asking in the group, which again is totally understandable given the sensitivity of this, I'm going to put a QR code up at the end, which links right to Calendly. And then you'll be able to just hop on and find a 30-minute slot that works for you. We have some left in August, and we have a bunch in September for you. So don't feel like you have to compromise your situation by putting an awkward question in. If you have a general question, if you know somebody else or a friend or whatever, that's totally fine. And again, if you want to do it, I'm open to it. I just know that this is a sensitive topic. So if it's something you feel more comfortable with dealing with me one-on-one with on the back end, just again, at the end, we'll do that. Also, we will put an email up if you want a copy of today's slides, because there's a lot of great information here. And sometimes, we're not able to write everything down. And if you want to share this maybe with your leadership team, you want to share it with your team, because it's a real uplifting, positive message. It's not like all gloom and doom, like, oh my gosh, everything's going downhill. So it's a really great spot for you to be able to educate and build your team up, as we'll see. So avail yourself to those. If you'd rather have me come in and help with facilitating that with your team, I'd be happy to do that as well, whether in person or on Zoom. So just wanted to clear that up. So a couple things about me real quick before we jump in. As Erica mentioned, my name is Dave Melenda. I founded the company Positive Polarity, and we're in our 13th year of coaching and training, business coaching, sales coaching. And the cool part is along the journey, I've been able to write a #1 Amazon best-selling book called Growing on Purpose, which has been a blast to do. I'm working on my next book about business blind spots, so watch for that. And we are doing a podcast that's called the Positive Polarity Podcast, and we're 200 and some episodes in. And we're honored to be able to have been in the top. We're in the top 2.5% of all podcasts in the world, according to listennotes.com. So each week we have people talking about topics like this. So feel free to jump on any of those spots where you listen to podcasts. And I do offer this, and it's fun because if you want to be a podcast guest, if it's something that you want to look into, please reach out to us. We're always looking for guests with a great story and with some, great information. So if that's outside your comfort zone, great. Maybe give it a shot and try it. And so with that, I want to continue that discussion about comfort zone, because I guess right now, probably most of us are in our comfort zone. We're sitting there, we feel in control, we're pretty safe, we're behind our computer. There's not a lot of threats here for you right now. But if you're like me, you're here to learn or to grow. And so, which are great things, but look what's in between where you are and where you want to be. And it's this thing called the fear zone. And the reason that I put this up is because in the next 45 minutes or so of us being together, you're going to hear your brain give you some excuses like, oh, you don't know my team, that would never work, or you don't know my company, or you don't know my leaders. There'll be some excuses that you'll find yourself coming up with. And I just want to share that with you now because I really challenge you and encourage you to stay with it. Because if you give in to those excuses, if you give in, like me, when I give in, I check out. Now I just maybe stay, maybe I'll go do something else, maybe I'll open up email. And you can do all that, but I really want you, if you're here, there's a reason that you're here today. Toxic workplace, maybe it's something that you're experiencing currently, maybe it's something you want to avoid, and which is fantastic. Whatever the reason is, I just want you to get the most out of this. And it starts generally with our brain. And I just want to encourage you to push through that when you hear those excuses come up, because I want you to grow and I want you to learn. I want you to acquire some new skills. I want you to be able to turn, if you have a toxic workplace, I want you to turn that into a non-toxic workplace because it definitely can happen. So I just want to start with a question and I want you to throw it into the chat or the Q&A. But when you think of toxic workplace, outside of the picture, I think that's a cool picture, but what are some of the things, what comes into your mind? And as you're writing them down and putting them in there, again, I just want to get some ideas on where you're at. So I'll ask you, Erica, when you hear that toxic workplace, what are some things that come into your brain?
Yeah, that's a good question. I tend to think about, how I feel if I'm, put in an uncomfortable situation, whether it's a discussion with coworkers or with my boss. Those are kind of the things, just like kind of any uncomfortable situation that makes you think like, oh, is this okay? Or did I do something wrong? Or is
Sure,
this,
sure. Yep.
the correct behavior?
Yeah, that's a great one. Nobody's seeming to wanting to jump in, so either they're not hearing us or they are thinking, oh, we got somebody raising we got some hands raised. Throw into
Awesome.
the chat or the Q&A, throw in something in there that you feel is when you hear toxic work environment, I think would be definitely helpful.
Yeah. Does
There we go.
anybody,
We
Dave, for the
we
raised,
got
oh,
one, we got difficult employees.
okay,
So
awesome.
that's awesome. Yep, for sure. That's a great one. We got one in the Q&A. Chat is currently disabled.
Okay.
Okay, there we
Oh,
go. Unkindness,
thanks, guys.
harassment, um, uh, verbally hostile. Absolutely. These are all exactly what this means. This is really good stuff. And so here is the definition, the technical definition of it is basically you start thinking about personal conflicts. You start thinking about discriminatory practices, harassment. You think about lack of respect, okay, among colleagues. Poor communication. Poor communication is such a huge piece of toxic work environment. And there are these things that some people really believe that, take somebody that is toxic in your workplace. Some people really believe that they drive to work and on their way to work, they're like, man, I know I'm toxic. I want to be toxic and I want to make others toxic as well. A lot of times it just happens. So we have to be careful and not pre-thinking that, hey, everybody around me is toxic and they want to be and they love it and enjoy it. Some people absolutely do, but most people, they're not that way. Maybe it's excessive workload that creates that toxic work environment. Okay, maybe it's the lack of teamwork or overbearing office politics. But those are really some things right there that are just key to this right now. If you're experiencing this, we have some ideas here for you. We have some definite paths that you can take. We have some opportunities for you to learn some new skills. Again, learning and growing, but it requires jumping outside of your comfort zone. Because a lot of people think, hey, it's not my problem. I'm going to put my head down and just work on my own stuff. So, Erica, in your career, have you experienced these types of things, this toxic work environment in your past? I'm going to start there. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, unfortunately, with one of my first jobs, I was working in a restaurant. I'm not going to name any names, but
Please
yeah,
don't.
and yeah, of course. And I it's kind of funny because when you're in it, you don't always realize it. Mostly, when you kind of look back on it after you've left is when you can really like come to terms with the fact that, wow, I was all of that was so wrong. So I kind of chalk it up to inexperience and, I was young, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely have experienced at least a couple of the things on this list.
Yeah, and it's just so uncomfortable because a lot of times we internalize it, right? Like, what did I do wrong? How can I do better? And I think that it's good for us to look at ourselves and make sure that we're not part of the problem. Are we part of the lack of teamwork? Are we creating office politics in these situations? Are we the gossip in the office? Are we the one going from office to office? Hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? So there are some things that we can do. And so I just want to make sure that people kind of get an understanding of what that is, because generally speaking, looking at HR in general and looking at company specific, most people, if you walked into your boss's office and said, hey, I think I broke my arm, she's going to say, hey, my gosh, go to the emergency room immediately. Physical health is really important. It's a very important piece. But I feel like mental health, which is part of this toxic work environment, some of these things that we're going to deal with, mental health gets overlooked. We're ashamed of it. We're embarrassed of it. I mean, I had on my podcast, I had an attorney that was PTSD or no ADHD, and you wouldn't have known it, but she knew it, and she was working with ADHD people, and it's estimated up to a third of the work environment is ADHD. Now, that's a whole different discussion, but you know what? Here it is. I like what Mel Robbins said. You know what? Your life depends on your mental health. And so I want to make sure on the onset that you're helping out yourself as much as you can. And again, I'm not a mental health expert, so you would want to go to wherever HR tells you to go. But I just think that the toxic work environment a lot of times is because there's mental health issues that somebody's not dealing with. And again, shame comes in, embarrassment comes in. Those things come in when somebody labels you as whatever, mentally unfit. So I just like what Mel Robbins said. So I just want to encourage the listener today to be able to really um, do a good gut check for yourself. And because, like I said, my next book is on blind spots. This is a big blind spot for people. People have mental health issues and they're not even aware of it. So that's where it's great to have a friend. It's great to have a fellow coworker that you trust. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I just want to encourage you to make sure that you're coming from a great place. Because when you look at this right here, this is crazy. These numbers are between 92 and 95%. So I'm going to just say, for the sake of math, everybody, okay? Everybody said it's important to have an emotional and psychological well being, a safe environment. Who here does not want a safe environment? Who here does not want support for you if you discover that you have this issue, a mental health issue? And so it's one of those things that, again, we make all these accommodations for ADA with wheelchairs, or we make all these accommodations for somebody that has, needs an elevator, whatever. We make these physical accommodations. We just miss right now what's going on in the mental health world. And I just want to encourage you that if there is a lot of toxicity, we'll call it, in your workplace, it's going to become a lot of times back to mental health. How about 95% of workers said it's very important for them to feel respected at work? Erica, how long would you stay at the BBB if every day or regularly you came in and your team disrespected you, disrespected the work that you're doing? How long could you last there?
Oh, not long at all, probably. I think that would be kind of my cue to start looking elsewhere. And I would
Right?
just look for anywhere else that would be, more positive.
And I just was talking to somebody this morning that's quiet quitting. They admitted it out loud. They're quiet quitting. And it's because of this right here. They're not respected. So if you're in this on this call and you're involved in leadership, really do a deep dive on how you're respecting or disrespecting your team. Because let's just say everybody says it's very important to be respected at work. And then the last one is, you know what? People need to know that there's boundaries between work and non-work time. This work-life balance, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's so important for people to understand that that's the case. And Eric and I were just talking about one of the BBB employees that just had a baby, and they were giving her a nice part of time, some time off to really be able to, you know, live that experience, enjoy it, acclimate to that. I don't know what that looks like for each company. It's so different, but it's just really it's becoming more and more important. As you can see, 95%. So I always say, let's say we have 10 people on our team, nine and a half of those people say it's very important to be able to have that work non-work balance. And that a lot of times creates toxic work environments. One of the things that was is overload, a work overload. If you're seeing that, definitely take a look to see if that's, if toxic is now coming out of that. If we have a deadline and we have to stay late once a week or once in a while, that's one thing. But if we're constantly in that state where we're never caught up, we're always behind, that's a toxic spot, definitely. So, and if people do have questions, please throw them in the chat, throw them in the Q&A. We'll get them as we go so that we can keep it fresh. So if something jars you and you want to ask a question, make a comment, please jump in. Erica's going to be monitoring that. So this is kind of like the first gut check for you. I look at these two pictures, and everybody on this call, everybody that's listening to this, you choose which one of these are your work environment. Is it a safe and healthy and happy work environment like on the left? Or on the right, is it the one where it's over demanding and there's too much pressure and there's guilt and there's shame and there's all these negative things? I mean, how does that lady feel right there? She feels horrible. And again, this is a toxic work environment. Generally speaking, she did not underperform. The expectations are too high. And yeah, there's times that people underperform, but the vast majority of this is because of this toxic work environment. The research shows that right now in the US, 30 million people are experiencing that right there. So it's entirely possible that it could be something that is something that you're dealing with. So I just want to make sure that you are able to identify where you are. Because if you don't know where you are, we have no clue where we're going to go. And again, this might be a blind spot. That's why if you feel like, oh, none of this is applying to you, well, I would ask somebody on your team, ask a customer. Holy cow, if you want to get vulnerable, ask a customer, is our work environment toxic? How do you feel when you come to our office? How do you feel when you're communicating with people on your team? So those are just, I like those pictures to be able to really find where you're at in your world today. So the Surgeon General came up with 5 workplace essentials, and that's what we're going to unpack here for the next few minutes. These are just 5 things that the Surgeon General said, you know what, these are essential for a workplace. And it's crazy how much toxic workplaces kind of flies into this, because I like this picture. They kind of all interplay with each other. This is right from the Office of the US Surgeon General. They really do connect with each other. And I want to look at these and I want to, again, ask you to think outside your comfort zone a little bit, because these are a little bit challenging because they're outside of the status quo. If you're the type of person that wants to keep your head down and keep just doing my work and not letting others bother me, you can do that. But generally speaking, eventually something here is going to happen. And so the first one, protection from harm. You know, how important is psychological safety for you? This is going to really, if you really catch this, this is going to just really just be such an encouragement for you. Okay. I want to show you this right here. This is a psychological safe spot where you're able to give and receive feedback. You're able to raise issues and concerns. You're able to disagree. You're able to ask for clarification. You're able to ask some difficult questions. You're able to ask for help. I mean, some people can't even ask for help. Okay. You're able to offer solutions to some problems, and you're able to admit errors. Just imagine for a minute if this was a spot where you worked, where you were able to give and receive feedback. Now, again, look at this from your perspective, because maybe you're part of the issue. If you struggle with receiving feedback, some people really have a hard time when somebody comes and offers feedback. And so that's one of those things that this is a give and take on that one. It's fun to give feedback, but how fun is it to receive feedback, right? It's not nearly as fun to receive it as it is to give it. Now, can you raise issues and concerns? Can you in a safe place? So, again, awkward question, Erica, for you, but BBB is a great place. I've been there for a bunch of years. Great place, great people. But looking at these here, these seem to be all pretty much in line with what goes on in a day-to-day basis right now at the BBB, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we offer complaint and review services to customers, and we're kind of acting as mediators. Um, but yeah, even within the office, we kind of like to reach out to one another and make sure everyone's doing okay.
How hard is it for you to disagree with somebody? Is that something that's kind of personally hard for you to disagree or confront somebody in your office?
If it's like a work issue,
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty good at, kind of either, I know I can talk to my manager or our, BBB president if it's something serious. We have an internal, like the HR process that we can go through. So I would feel comfortable doing that. I haven't had to yet, but
Yeah.
I find too that there's always a good way to kind of, like say something or bring up an issue, but turn
Yep.
it in a positive way.
Absolutely. And I think anybody hopefully can raise issues and concerns. They're doing it like we talked about before in a respectful way. Because I could come to you with a complaint about somebody on our team. If you were the leader and I had, a complaint about somebody else, I can come to you and say, "Hey, Erica, I really like working here. I really feel valued here. I'm struggling with so and so." Okay, that's one way to do it. The other way is to go, "This place is ridiculous. This guy's got to go or I got to go," right? I mean, there's just two ways to deal with these things. So I always like to look at my responsibility in this and see what can I do. And again, hopefully you can raise issues and concerns. Company that I had back in the 2000s, we had a bunch of people on our team. Everybody knew, because I told them multiple times, there's really nothing you can say to me that's going to get you fired, because I don't want you to have to be any of this stuff. You should be able to be safe and ask these questions. Now, you might not like the answer, but at least it gives you the flexibility and freedom to raise a question or disagree. I mean, who likes to really disagree? Most people don't, but there's a time we need to be able to be safe in that environment. And you can look at any of these, and if you like, if you can't raise an issue, toxic workplace. If you can't disagree, toxic workplace. If you can't ask questions, I mean, offering solutions. I love asking the team, what do you guys think we should do? because I'm an entrepreneur that has one vision, but you know what? When there's multiple people on the team, it's great to ask them their their thoughts on that piece. And again, how hard is it for you to admit an error? You know, when's the last time? Think about that. When's the last time that you admitted something to somebody that you did wrong? And not that you have to go around doing that every day, but boy, I sure want you to be vulnerable, and I sure want you to be transparent enough to be able to take ownership of, hey, that was on me. I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. I mean, just that is really challenging for most people to do. And that really kind of sucks the air out of a toxic work environment in a positive way when you start taking responsibility for yourself. So you were talking, Erica, about when you were in a restaurant business, you were type in the restaurant. Were some of these things not really, uh, were you not able to do some of these in some of those positions that you had?
Yeah, it was pretty, I would feel maybe if I had a question sometimes about something, I felt like I couldn't ask like a manager, about how to do something.
Yeah.
Or if I had an issue, it was kind of like I have to solve it myself. Um, and yeah, so I'm seeing, it's a lot of, there were a lot of like micro, I think, things, but
And it's
yeah, it's
just so they're
definitely,
little stuff, right?
yeah.
But boy, when they start to add up,
Mhm.
you start to wonder, why am I here? And as soon as you get to those four words are so detrimental to a company. When somebody starts wondering why they're here, that's a challenge that I just feel doesn't need to happen. So again, make sure that your company is a psychologically safe place to be. And these are great pieces right here. This is a great piece to be able to just give it to your team. Share this with your team. Encourage them to be able to do this. And think about this from a customer perspective. A customer, they might not feel comfortable being able to do these. And I tell you, that's the kiss of death. When your customer doesn't feel like they're in a safe place, they're gone. You know what? A lot of people just quiet quit like we talked about, or just do as little as possible on the team. That's one thing. But when customers start leaving, they don't come back. And so this is why I feel that's so important. So awesome. Number two, the second thing that the Attorney General said is a requirement for a business, a successful business, is the connection and the community. Where we are, there's a culture of belonging. And you know what? We can build trust in these relationships. Patrick Lencioni's Five Misfunctions of a Team, his book is the number one thing is trust. Everything is built upon trust. And the BBB is built upon trust. If you don't trust the customer or the company you're doing business with, then probably shouldn't do business. If you don't trust your leadership, you're not going to be engaged at work. The chances are 1 in 12 that you're actually an engaged employee if you don't trust your leaders. But as soon as you do trust your leaders, that 1 in 12 goes to 1 in 2. So trust is such an important piece. And same with collaboration and teamwork. Those pieces are so important. And so many companies today are building these silos and they're not collaborating anymore. I mean, Erica, you're on the marketing team. And so are you collaborating regularly with the sales team and the ops team and the other teams? Is that pretty regular collaboration for you?
Yeah, definitely. I was just talking to one of our sales, our leader of sales today, just sending her some leads that we got in through social media. So I kind of, every day, even accounting too, so
Yeah.
it's all interconnected.
Yeah, and I don't know why, again, I understand the word and the concept of silos. It just doesn't really give you the warm and fuzzy. You look at this picture and purely you have to decide which team is more like yours, which picture is more like your team. Now, again, I'm not saying that you got to be best friends and you got to spend 24/7 with people at work. That's not what I'm saying. I just wanted you to know that connection. And that was a big thing in my book, Growing on Purpose, on how to strengthen your team is doing this connection. This connection, that team on the left will go way farther than the team on the right, because those five people on the right, they really don't need each other. Hopefully they're not texting each other. That would be really awkward. But you know, you see the difference here, and that connection, that it's a much higher likelihood of a toxic work environment when you're not connected with somebody. Because if you are connected, if you and I work together, you know, Erica, in the same office and we were connected, it's much easier to be able to come to you and say, hey, I got an issue with what you did. Or you can come to me and say, hey, why did you do that? There's a way more of a connection there and easier for that to happen than for people that, you know, they may not even know each other. They may not even know people's last names and or first names. And I know in some of these bigger companies, it's obviously hard to know everybody. But I can tell you, there was Race Chicken was a client that I worked with in the middle of the state of Wisconsin, and there's 800 people, and you're driving from the Dells to the Minneapolis area, and in Portage on your left, you're just going along, and there's nothing, and all of a sudden there's this big like little city, and it's Breakbush Chicken. And I met with Carl Breakbush, the owner, and he gave me a tour of the place before we did our training, and he knew all these people. He'd walk up, he'd say, hey, John, how did Debbie do last night in soccer? And it just blew me away because he kept doing this and doing this because he was connected with his team. So, Erica, in your restaurant time, were you connected with people, or was it more like that picture on the right where there wasn't a lot of connection?
I would say I was very connected. I think it was more, everyone, at least for my coworkers,
Yeah.
the other servers and bartenders, we all hung out outside of work also, so we were pretty connected, definitely.
And it kept that mojo going, right? It kept that engagement going. You know, if you saw somebody not clean a table, rather than raise your hand and go tell, you know, the manager, you just fixed it for them, right? You
Oh yeah.
covered for them. Yeah. And that's what such is so important about these non-toxic work environments, is that's going on a regular basis. And that's where hopefully we're able to really you know, do an inward look at what our team looks like. And again, get these slides and sit with these pictures and say, which one are we? You know, look at it right now. Which one are we? And if be honest, be open, be okay with saying we're not where we want to be. Okay. Number three, talked about a little before, is the work-life balance. Hopefully now there's more autonomy on how work is done. Most people are getting away from the 8 to 5. They're getting into this, hey, just get the work done type stuff. That's the scheduling, work from home, work from, you know, work from the beach. I don't care. As long as the work's getting done. I'll never forget when I was 19 years old and my first job. And my boss told me at the time, he said, we work from 8 to 5. But the reality is if you're getting your work done, this is how old this is. You'll laugh when I say it. As long as you get your work done, and I see you at Kmart in the middle of the day, I don't care. Well, first of all, I don't know if Kmart's even around anymore, but I thought that was so cool to be able to say, hey, you know what? The goal is getting your work done. It's, you know, and again, it's hard for a server or bartender to just come and go as they please. So I understand there's some logistics there. But they also talk about increased access to paid leave. We talked about that again with the BBB employee getting some really nice maternity leave to start that next chapter of their life. And do that respect of work and non-work. Totally try to respect that piece, because you have a choice. In my opinion, you have a choice of either a work life balance or burnout. It's hard to not have one or the other. And so, like, what does the BBB say to you as one of their people on their team, Erica? How did they talk with you about these topics of work life balance? What experience have you had?
It's really comes down to kind of flexible scheduling. You should be able to, at least for me now in this part of my life. I value a job that, if I feel like I need to go for a walk, take my dog for a walk for my mental health, or, I just had like a difficult email that I had to send off, I can like walk around, or if I have a doctor's appointment, just being able to have that flexibility of taking time off and, you make it up later or you use
Yep.
PTO. That's been really instrumental to me for the work-life balance portion.
Yeah. And do you notice from like your peers, because you're much younger than me, do you notice your generation enjoying that flexibility as well?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think the interaction with coworkers is still very important and, like the, traditional work values, but more and more I'm seeing, my friends, you need to be able to offer some type of hybrid scheduling,
Yeah.
depending on what your job is, like
Yep.
I'm not on the phones all day. So I
Right.
totally
Yep.
understand every job is different. So
Yeah,
respect, like you said
absolutely.
earlier, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And some of it doesn't work, but you know what? You try to work it within your parameters because this work-life balance is not going away. And whether COVID or this work from home, I mean, this thing called Zoom that nobody knew of before 2020, right? Now all of a sudden, it's like it's crazy. Every week I have a guest on my show, and they're anywhere from around the world. I mean, I've had 6 of the 7 continents, and, I've had people in the middle of the night. I've been in the middle of the night to accommodate their schedule. There's all these different things that are going on. And again, this is just becoming more and more important. And when somebody does this, um, rigid, you have to do it this way. It's the grounds to increase that toxicity. So just keep that in mind. I love what Hillary Clinton said. Don't confuse having a career with having a life. And again, I get that there are driven people. We do a ton of work with DISC, and we know personalities. There are personalities that are drivers, and that's how they are, and that's great. I'm that way. I'm learning that you can't be on 24/7. You don't have to be on 24/7 unless you're a hospital or unless you're, firemen or police or whatever, right? But just realize that you can have a career and you can have a life, and they don't have to be so entwined with each other. So number 4, as we start to land today, is make sure that people know that they matter at work. Provide a living wage is pretty easy to decide and discuss. How about engaging workers in workplace decisions? People love to give their input. And I knew early in my career when I didn't offer for input and I said, this is just the way it's going to be, I didn't have nearly as much engagement on my team as I did when I said, hey, you guys, let's talk this through. Let's come up with some ideas. One of the things early on was like summer hours. We were a construction supply company. And so we had our first person starting on the phones at 7 and he left at 4. And then we had the majority of people came in 8 to 5. That's just what we did. Well, in summer, people were like, hey, can we talk about summer hours? And at first I was like, sure, let's talk about it. And I had my thought of what it meant. And as we morphed it out, everybody kind of put in their 2 cents and we came to a really good agreement. And we have to, as leaders, get past the fact that people are trying to take advantage of us. There are people in society that are definitely going to try to do that. The vast majority of people on your team are good, hardworking, honest people. And to penalize them because of the few people that weren't in line with that, I just think that's unfair. So engage the worker, allow them to make some of the workplace decisions. Okay. Build a culture of gratitude. Oh, I can't say this enough. This is crazy. I want to show you this. Here's the importance. This is the money. For those of you looking for an ROI, here's the money on employee recognition. Employees who receive regular recognition are 2.7 times more likely to be highly engaged. I mean, we've been hearing, and I talk a ton about engaged employees, and put it this way, you want as many engaged employees as you possibly can. And right now in the US, there's a third of the workforce is highly engaged. So that means there's a ton of people that aren't. They're disengaged or they're actively disengaged. You want as many as possible. So increasing the recognition will increase the engagement. So just think about that. And the cool thing is employee recognition is free. If I come to Erica and say, "Oh my gosh, Erica, I heard you on the phone with so and so. That was fantastic. Where did you learn how to do that?" What are you feeling right now, Erica? Look at she's smiling. She's like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
thank you," right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah, definitely.
and
It's like a
and it costs
endorphin
nothing.
boost. Yeah.
It costs nothing. She loved it. We got to be authentic about it. We got to be genuine about it. But I tell you what, you want to make somebody's day, go to Taco Bell or McDonald's or any of those fast food restaurants and just walk up to somebody when they're waiting on you and say, "Man, I just really appreciate you today. Thank you for taking my order. Thank you for being here." Watch what happens because they're not used to that. They're not used to somebody, and it's not just in the fast food industry, it's pretty much anywhere. Go out of your way for your team. Start with your team and catch them doing something right. Super awesome. Low turnover rate. You know what? 31% less voluntary turnover when you have an employee recognition on a regular basis. Because again, if Erica is contemplating leaving and we're able to say what a great job she's doing, all of a sudden she's kind of weighing the pros and the cons. And the pros start to grow as we really engage and with each other and really make sure that I'm recognizing her for a job well done. So that's the other piece that you got to look at. Increased productivity. How about this? Here we go again with that 10 people on my team. Let's say I have 10 people on my team. The research shows 8 of those 10 people will work harder. Okay. I always hear leaders say, "Man, if my team just worked harder, we wouldn't have this problem." You know what? Well, here's your solution right here. Because I flip this around now. When someone says, "Why is my team not working harder?" I go right to this and say, "Do you know that 8 out of 10 of them would work harder if they were recognized more?" And I get people to say, "Hey, you know what? I pay them. Um, that's their recognition. They get invited to the Christmas party." It's like, oh my gosh, really? I mean, get with the next century here. This is a weekly thing. Sometimes it's daily. It's one of those things that if you're not getting recognized regularly, and let's just say, so I'll put it back to you, Erica. So let's say you're not getting recognized at all or very regularly at the BBB. And let's just say after work, you meet one of your girlfriends for a drink and she's like gushing, like, "Oh my gosh, I love my job. I love where I work. They always this and they're always that." And there's you not getting that. What are you thinking right at that spot?
Oh, probably feeling a little bit jealous or put out, or, how can I fix this? It's definitely a problem.
Are they hiring? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. And it's so one of those things again that I feel is so important for us. And we as leaders, you guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, this costs you zero. This isn't like you got to walk up to somebody and give them a $20 bill. This is you taking time. And this is why a lot of times entrepreneurs would rather pay the money than give the compliment, because the compliment takes time and it takes intentionality. It means I have to now know more about Erica and understand more about what's going on in her world. If I walk by and hey, nice job today. Thanks for showing up. That's okay. But I tell you what, like I said before, man, I just heard you on the phone, Erica. I just got an email from somebody that said, "What a great job you did on that, fixing that marketing piece." Or, "I love that social media post that you did. Wow. Where did you get that?" That's the kind of stuff that, again, it takes intentionality. It takes energy to go and learn more about your team. Better company culture, 90% of employees are more motivated and happier when they're recognized. I don't know about you guys, but I do not want an unmotivated and an unhappy person on my team, because I can take one bad apple and I can put it in a bucket of all good apples, and all those good apples turn bad pretty darn quick. It's never been the other way around. Has anyone ever seen a bucket of bad apples and you put one good one in there and they all turn good? No, it doesn't work that way. It's the same here. If you want to improve your company culture, go ahead and recognize your people at work. And then the last one is the financial performance. You're 12 times more likely to have a strong business outcome. So if you purely look at this from an ROI, I don't care about my team. All I care about is the bottom line. Then you know what? Strong recognition programs give you up to a 12 times better return on your investment. So if those pieces right there are not an impetus enough for you to create this employee recognition to change the workplace toxic that you might have, I don't know what else is gonna, because this is really as simple as we can make it. Now, the last one as we land is opportunity for growth, offer quality training, education, and mentoring. That's where people like me come in, because we come in and train teams. We come in and do this kind of stuff. We see such an improvement on toxic employees, toxic environments when they're invested in. You can fix them. Okay. You don't have to fire every toxic employee you have. I know people that are like, fire quick, fire quick, fire quick. And it's like a revolving door, which is fine if that's how you want to do it. But there's easier and more effective and profitable ways. And one of them is to train people, educate them, mentor them, give them some clear ideas for career advancement. I love this piece right here. Which path are you on? Sometimes it's so convoluted to get to where they want to be. Ask one of your team, where do they want to be in 5 years? I asked I asked my whole team, and one of the guys said, I want your job. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm so glad that he was aspiring for ownership. He was aspiring for something other than, and he had this clear path to get there. It sure wasn't as convoluted as that piece right there. And then when you think about the feedback, don't wait until the 6 month or the 12-month review to give feedback. Do it right there, because 80% of people who got feedback in the last week, they're more engaged. So again, we go back to the engaged employee. We go back to that spot where we just want them to be engaged. We want them to show up thinking about, how can I better myself? How can I better the company? How can I improve the customer's experience? When they have that attitude of how they can improve and better themselves in the company, and that's because we're giving them meaningful feedback. Again, I challenge you on all of these that we have not really invested any money. Most all of what we're talking about is investing energy. And if you're unable to do this, then you may want to consider having somebody else on your team do it, because all of these things that we just saw are definitely reasons for us to want to get away from a toxic work environment. So here's my homework for you. Here's my challenge. Here's my dare. Okay. I kind of dare you to do this. I dare you to text somebody, call somebody, email somebody today, and let them know what a great job they're doing. I do this. When I speak in a large group in person, this is in the spot where I say, hey, stop right now and go ahead. And this is the only time that a speaker will ever say it's cool to use your phone while I'm talking. Go ahead and text somebody. Lock somebody in your mind that's on your team. Maybe it's a trade partner. Maybe it's a partner. Maybe it's a customer. I don't care. But somebody in your world needs to be able to know that you're thinking about them right now, and that you're going to say, what a great job that you're doing, and thank you. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Erica. Who in your world right now can you think of that you would be able to send a great job, thank you for all you're doing type of email, text, or call? Who would that be for you?
So what first came to mind, I have a coworker on right now, actually, Lisa Schiller, and I want to give her a shout out. Thanks for joining. And also, I owe you an email after this because I don't know, she's just so nice and reaches out, and I like to help her out because she's just so kind and like friendly, like in person. We always say hi to each other when we see each other at the
Yeah.
office or at a staff party. So yeah.
Well, I never see her in her office anymore. So I started to wonder if she really worked for the BBB. But so, hi, Lisa. It's good to see you. Sorry we miss you every time we're in the office. But yeah, I mean, isn't that powerful to be able to do that? Number one, it makes you feel better to go and do that for somebody else.
Yeah,
And it makes them feel better, right? And that's where, I
absolutely.
mean, Lisa's thinking right now, like, how cool is that? Right? And that's where now and hopefully she's now thinking, "Hey, who can I tell is doing a great job?" And that's where, again, just imagine if your team spread to where everybody was always looking out like he's for other people. And is she texting you privately right now?
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
got a
I
message from
figured as
her.
much. That's her. Yeah, that's awesome. But I just want to challenge you guys to do that, you know? I want to be able for you to see, oh, there we go. Huh, yep. See, look at that. Oh, thanks. Oh, now she's being nice to me. Look at this. How
Yeah,
cool is that? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But I love that. I mean, that just like makes my day seeing my name and saying somebody saying a nice thing about me. Okay. It just and if I tell you what, if that's not you, I understand that. And I'm gonna end with this. There's a great book called The Five Love Languages. And it basically says that we give and receive love in different ways. Now, the only reason I bring it up here is because one of the ways that people give love to another is through positive words of affirmation. Well, I'll tell you what, if there are people, if you're on this call, if you're listening to this recording and you are not that person, a lot of times we think, hey, if I don't need it, somebody else doesn't need it. Okay. And I just want to caution you that there are a lot of people that love to hear positive words of affirmation. And if that's not you, nothing wrong with you. You're fine. You're awesome. You're built perfect. I just want you to realize that there are other people around in your sphere that probably do need that. So don't think if you're the leader, hey, I don't need it, I don't get it, so therefore nobody else is going to get it. That's just a dangerous spot for you to be. Okay. So hopefully you take me up on the homework. Next steps, we do a monthly event at the Better Business Bureau. As an accredited member, we're able to use their great conference room. And on September 18th at noon for lunch, it's a free one. We have a special guest coming in to talk about business burnout, which will run into some of these topics. So if you want to learn more, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to get you an invite. It's free lunch, free education, and free networking. So it's an awesome opportunity. And then again, the last piece is if you want a copy of these slides, please reach out to Dana. It's Dana at positivepolarity.com, and she'll be happy to send those to you. Or grab a copy of my book, and we'll be happy to get you a copy. Go to positivepolarity.com, and I think they're 16 bucks. Or I'm going to give some books away for people. If you want a free 30-minute time with me, like I mentioned at the beginning, maybe something here triggered something that you don't feel comfortable talking about, just click on that QR code or reach out to Dana. But find a 30-minute slot. And for the first 5 people that do get a free book, we'll throw a book in the mail to you and include that in. So you get like 30 minutes plus a book. So it's like, man, I don't know what else to give you. I've given you an hour's worth of stuff. Hopefully, this has helped. And I am able to help you individually with your situation. And it's completely confidential. And you can definitely say it's not my company, it's my neighbor's company. That's fine. Whatever, whatever you want to say, I'm fine with. But I just don't want you to leave not changed. I don't want you to leave and not see that there is hope for a toxic work environment. So I'll turn it back to Eric. I don't know if there's any questions or comments. Now's the time to throw them in. We got about 3 minutes, so I'll turn it back to you, Erica.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And I do want to apologize for the chat not working. I was trying to work in the background to fix it, but it looked like the Q&A was really active. So thank you for all of the feedback that we got. Sharing your present or past situations. I know it's difficult to talk about, and Dave has given us some amazing feedback and action items to work on after this. So again, I encourage you guys to scan this QR code and reach out to Dave if you do want to follow up. They've got some great stuff going on, and I will also, this session was recorded, so I will be sharing a copy of the recording with those who attended and those who did not attend but did register. So thanks so much for sharing an hour of your day with us, Dave, and
Yeah,
everyone in
absolutely.
attendance. Yeah, this was wonderful. Very cool. All right. Well, if anyone doesn't have, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we can get everything wrapped up. Any last words, anybody?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Cool.
My schedule's there, so please
Yeah.
use it. If you don't do it, it's totally cool, but you can't say the BBB and positive polarity didn't give you the opportunity to fix this toxic situation that you might have or that you want to avoid. So please reach out. Thank you so much, Erica, for letting me share this. Great to see you. Uh, Hopefully I can see you in person someday soon. Same with you, Lisa. Quit working from home so much. It'd be nice to walk by your office and see your light on. So can't wait to keep seeing you guys, and thanks for everything.
Yeah, thank you guys.